So this quote by Rudolf Steiner from the early 1900s continues to teach me. Women in the West, by virtue of their biology, have the ability and the capacity to bring the forces of the heart back into the social fabric. So that implies there's a lack of heart in social systems and that female biology can help. Okay, I can promise you that 25 years ago, I never would have requested to give a public talk on how menstruation, ovulation, and menopause is the source of a woman's health and power and that of her community. No, that conversation was not happening at the prep school that I went to, nor did I hear anything about that at the Catholic masses that I attended as a child. And at Duke University, where I was a student athlete, I definitely valued my body, but it was more as a performing machine. My monthly cycle, major interruption. So obviously I've gotten a better attitude, and I want to share 3 things with you that I've learned. 1, a woman's body actually has 2 hearts, an upper heart and a lower heart. And both of these organs pump blood. We are way more comfortable talking about the blood that's pumping in the upper heart. For that matter, I think we're way more comfortable talking about the blood that's spilled in war or the blood that's splattered on the movie screen than we are talking about the life-giving blood that's responsible for all of us being here, or how that blood transforms itself into mother's milk, let alone how that life-giving blood releases itself in menstruation. So that's number 1. Number 2, a woman's 28-day cycle is tied to the Earth's seasonal cycle. And number 3, the disintegrative aspects of both of those cycles is life-producing. So without autumn, disintegration, there's no spring. Without menstruation, disintegration, there's no ovulation, the creative force of a woman's body. They're inseparable. Just like the in-breath arises from the bottom of the out-breath. Even though disintegration, dying, falling apart, is a part of life, we avoid it at all costs in our personal lives and in our social systems. So developing the ability to let go, to withstand disintegration, is a strength that can be applied daily and will be mighty useful when each one of us is asked to let go of our last breath. And this letting go happens dramatically in a woman's body each month through menstruation. So yes, we are gonna go there and take a little bit of the boo out of taboo and talk about this, one aspect of the cycle. What if this power could be made more conscious? So I can promise you that my awakening to female biology, the first peak was not in menstruation, it was in pregnancy and birth. But we are not going to talk about that aspect of biology because it's the only one that's recognized, because it's kind of in your face. What I will say, though, is that the capacity to create, to nourish, to withstand unbearable pain, and to put the life of another before your own is innate. It is not dependent on having a baby. My second wake-up call came in 1996 when I first heard that quote open a 2-hour lecture by a woman named Tamara Slayton, and the title of the talk was Female Embodiment. So my friend dragged me there because she knew I needed some TLC, because several days prior I had experienced a miscarriage, which now I understand is a biological power of a woman's body that, like menstruation, is often experienced in isolation. So I share this part of that evening's story, though, because the falling apart that was happening in my body and in my heart had greatly enhanced my experience in that room of 100 women, 6 very brave men in the back, and Tamara talking up front. it was like the world would have perceived me as fragile, and I was. But I vividly recall feeling an unfamiliar kind of potency inside that fragility. Not the kind of power I felt on the athletic field or at work. It was like the falling apart kind of anchored me deep, deep into my bones, inside a calm presence. It was like my heart was much softer and more open. Kind of like my linear brain went out to Starbucks, and while it was gone, this information that so challenged my mental conditioning slipped in and into my DNA and just kind of ding, 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 ding. And my body really understood what my mind would never have been able to grasp. And it also set me on a path that evening, a not so easy path of recovery, to reclaim my whole body as a living library. And to give me the courage to enter into some of the rooms of that library that actually I didn't even know existed. It also laid the seeds for a course I teach called Women Awake, where we study remembering, reclaiming, re-empowering what it means to be inside female skin. And remembering implies that something has been dismembered. And so it means like there's a woman is cut off from her biological powerhouse. At least I was. And we're not taught anything, and for that matter, there are no rites of passages for men or women. And so, in part, remembering demanded a search and rescue mission of female biology. And so, this diagram represents what I call cycle wisdom. So now I think of female biology as a rich and varied ecosystem. It's like a microsystem that's tied to the Earth's ecosystem. So what the Earth does in a year, autumn, winter, spring, and summer, the female cycle does in 28 days. Menstruation, ovulation, disintegration, regeneration. So I realized somewhere in this recovery that it was like I could experience New Year's every month, like a reset button. The heart here represents the beginning of menstruation. In some cultures, they call it the mini-death. And here's this amazing thing, that the beginning of bleeding, which actually marks the end of the cycle, a signal is sent to the pituitary gland to start secreting life-producing hormones for the next cycle. So what appears to be the end is actually the trigger for the beginning. And this just blew my mind, that that kind of wisdom was happening in my body. And that there's no word, there's no English word for this. So I call it begending. Begending is obvious in the earth. We're in this beautiful season of autumn. You could say that the earth is menstruating right now. The beautiful leaves are dying and feeding the soil and the seeds for spring. Fact is, we all cycle. Yes, men, you too. We're inundated with cycles internally and externally. Men have their own subtle biorhythms. The day is releasing itself into night. Your breath cycle right now is practicing begending. Mindful observation of it, and you'll see that one is being born out of the other. So it's something to consider. It's odd that we don't act as if we're a part of this law of nature, part of this dynamic. So what are your relationships to dissolving? Are you aware of its creative power? What's falling apart in your life right now? And I hope something is. It's not easy, but it means you're coming alive again and again and again. And what needs to die in our social systems, education, medicine, politics, that just doesn't know how to do it. It's not practiced in the life-producing aspects of disintegration. Conscious or not, a woman's body does this, has this strength. So what would it be like if this capacity were brought out of isolation and awakened by half of the population? So let's just, for a couple seconds, let's just go there. Let's just go to that imaginary land where this is done, where there's no taboos, there's no shame, the unique gifts of men and women are equally honored. And in that land, I want you to imagine the girls being met by this living library of wisdom and experience. The women teach her, alongside her girlfriends, that her body is sacred, that her monthly biological clock is her primary timekeeper, not the calendar, not the one on the wall, not the punch clock at work. She's told that both ends of the cycle are going to ask something of her and are going to give something to her. So during menstruation, a woman's body is actually kind of drawn down and in, sort of like what happened to me at the miscarriage. So she's drawn down and into something like a gym in this world, but it's an inner gym. And no, it's not always easy to go there, and sometimes it's a relief. So I want you to imagine these young girls entering each month that inner workout, and she has the chance to heighten her ability to listen to her body, to attune, keep the communication open to that voice inside. That can happen at that time of the month. Month upon month, she exercises the strength to let go of the linear mind in order to develop her gifts that live in the nonlinear mind, the place of dreams, inner senses, sensitivities, intuitions, the same mind that Einstein said is the best place to find solutions to impossible problems. Now, in this world, she's critiqued for being scattered and fuzzy. So instead of suppressing emotion, they're encouraged to treasure their emotions, allowing them to flow. Sometimes it feels like it's just her emotions. Other times it feels like she's moving the grief of nations, because in this time of the month, she's learning to sensitize herself to the real World Wide Web of the heart. Once a month, she gets to practice the active states of rest and pause. These are active, procreative states that somehow have become un-American. So without autumn, without rest, without stillness, winter, there is no sustainable growth. So over time, and in the circle of women, she learns that disintegration is actually her ally and is valued by the community. Year upon year, she learns to live from the inside out, and she enters menopause awake, understanding that it is the true coming of age and the epitome of a woman's power and potency. So for 40 years, this wise one consciously entered the inner gym of her cycle each month, experiencing the mini death and rebirth over and over and over and over and over and over and over again until they became one in her body. And at some point, when was it? Year 20? Year 15? A profound steadiness arrived in her bones amidst all of the rising and the falling. This one is unafraid of the dark. She is unafraid of death. because she visited it each month for 40 years. I'll take that over six-pack abs. So this begending is woven now into her body, and she can bring presence to horror and beauty, disagreement, diversity. It's like she knows a secret, and she'd be a secret weapon right now in the Middle East, in Congress, or in the UN. If you look closely, you'll see that the wrinkles on her face actually spell the word sovereignty. So she's earned a command of her inner and her outer domain. She's definitely worth getting to know and could tell us a thing or two about the forces of the heart. It is said that a woman's ability to change is mirrored in the earth, and that what's done to her body will be done to the female body and vice versa. So how is each being treated? Right now there's a pill where a girl only needs to menstruate once to 4 times a year. Is anybody asking, is that okay? Or what might be lost? Like I just kind of think we wouldn't get rid of autumn. And when did birth become a medical condition? And how is it that Abilify, an antipsychotic drug, is the top-selling drug now to manage emotions? Why not impart supportive tools for women to access their biological powerhouse? So we have this opportunity to, both men and women have this opportunity to remember, reclaim, re-empower what it means to uniquely be inside male skin and his rhythms, and uniquely be inside female skin and her rhythms. We're interdependent, like autumn and spring, and deserving of each other's respect and protection. So I want to expand Steiner's quote and say women and men have the ability and the capacity to bring the forces of the heart back into the social fabric on a planet that we all love. Who else is going to do it?